Hello, welcome to episode 1 of Chatting Shit about the Venture Cup, the Regionals Cup. Really pleased to be joined by the same panel as who joined me for the first episode of this season, and that is Nick, Phil, and Dan. How are we all?
Good, Matt. Thanks for having us.
Doing great, thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Good to have you all back. Exciting cup, everyone quite excited for this?
Regionals. Yeah. Who couldn't be excited? It's regionals.
Yeah.
And it's open.
Yeah.
I actually feel it'll be more open than some previous ones to force you to pick some fun things.
Yeah, because
until everyone picks Hypno.
Well, no, because last month Dan and I sat here on episode 1 and we're like, there's going to be variety. It's going to be a good month. And I still feel like it kind of was. Like there was a bit of stagnation around Hypno, Toximuck, but I still feel like outside of that there was a lot of variety. I know
it was all about the Frostlass and the Claydol.
Not Claydol, mate. Achu.
Hey, excuse me, Daniel.
Yes.
Claydol.
Yeah, Claydol can take out a Pikachu Libre. That's all we'll say. You know what I mean? You know, if you can take out a Pikachu Libre, which was the sleeper mon for the entire tournament, then
you're doing something right. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to be this series. We're going to be only focusing on 1 point picks. Like we're not going to sit here and tell you about how good Hypno is. We're not going to sit here and tell you about how good Medicham is. It's going to be.
It's all been done before.
Yeah, it's going to be the bargain basement. So Dan's going to start tonight with something that's barely inside the top 50 on the rankings.
Okay, so I'm starting with Pokedex number 660, and that is Diggersby. A really, really talented player. Pokemon Master Steph told me a couple of tournaments ago, build a Diggersby. You won't regret it. And I've got to be honest, Diggersby's a beast. It's an absolute beast. And I feel that its play here is every team's going to have a Psychic. Yes, not every team's going to have Cresselia or Hypno, but people will want that Psychic coverage because there is fighters about. And this meta's got some good fighters in there. It's got Primeape, it's got Machamp, it's got the Chance, the Hitmon, sorry. So I think people are going to bring Psychics, and that's where Diggersby comes in, and it's also got that Fire Punch with it, so it can hurt other things, which is nice to have. You've got the threats from the electric types as well, which people are going to bring Galv, because Galv's allowed again, and everyone loves Galv, because it was a new toy not that long ago, and people have been denied playing with it. In numbers, Diggersby in the 1 shield beats 75% of the meta. This is just on equal shield. On the 0 shield beats 76%, and on the 2 shields beats 74%. So it's above average mon. It's gonna get battered by some stuff. It doesn't like being punched at all. Doesn't like being punched. Although, if you invest 2 shields and your opponent only invests 1, you can beat a Machamp, which I only found out 10 minutes ago because the PB Poke list only came out 10 minutes ago, and I've been desperately researching the team of 6 that I built in that 10 minutes. But yeah, my whole point of it, having it Diggersby there, was just for that little bit of Psychic coverage. I do think Mew's going to be big, because people haven't got that Hypno and people haven't got that Cresselia, because only a madman's going to spend 10 points in my eyes.
So when you say Psychic coverage, you mean Mew on the Lickers, the Ghosties?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it does still beat Hypno, because I think the recommended way to play the Hypno is to, get the coverage punch, but then have the finishing Shadow Ball. Well, Diggersby doesn't care about Shadow Balls.
Just laughs at the Shadow Ball.
I'm looking at it, and it beats a ton of the 10-point picks. It beats Cresselia, it beats Hypno. I don't know if you looked at this and wanted to have a laugh. Diggersby with Mudshot, Fire Punch, and Hyper Beam beats a Alolan Marowak.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's 100%.
Oh,
yeah. Did you not know
Marowak can't hit it back though, can it?
I mean, the fire spins are resisted, the bone clubs are neutral, the bone club's awful. But if you look at the sim, it's hilarious because you shield the first fire punch. Fire punch is doing 15 damage for 40 energy, and the sim actually has you with a killing blow hyper beam for 31 damage. And your Diggersby comes out with 11 health remaining. I don't know what.
That's all good and well, but we're not going to see any Marowak, are we?
Don't tempt me with a good time.
It's people enjoy. I mean, we say that we're not going to see Marowak because we're overly invested into it, and most of us are already going, how many 6-point teams can we make out of this? But other people are not. Other people are not, and it's why we will still see Hypno, we will still see Marowak, we will still see Cresselia. People
or Altaria too.
Altaria, DD. People are gonna bring these monsters. Now, don't put your DD in against. Don't go Diggersby against DD. You're gonna get hiding, like big time hiding. It's just gonna punch holes out of you. But people are gonna bring these mons. So yeah, I do think you will see AWAC, honestly. And Hyper Beam is the way to go with it. There's no need for Earthquake in this cup. There's no need for Earthquake at all. And with the Hyper Beam, you can, it hurts. It's a nice neutral hit. And Diggersby's fast enough that you get there. Do you know what I mean? And if you're not getting, well, you are getting there, but you've also got like 2.5 fire punches as well, which, you can use for baiting, and it's not,
Joe, I think it's a really interesting way to potentially take on a bonus net, which I'll come on to in a bit, which I think is going to be big. But the fire punch on a ground type makes that matchup like it's double super effective, but Diggersby's attack's pretty pitiful, and fire punch isn't a great move. But you comfortably to it KOing the bonus net when you're bulky enough to not.
Yeah, you have to respect that punch because it's going to do a chunk.
Yeah. So I mean that's the thing that stands out to me about it. Phil, you look in a bit of a trance, mate.
Yeah, I like a bonus no. You've always known this. So the fact that I'm going to get picked by an overgrown rabbit, I don't like the idea.
No.
No. Just no. No, I don't like it. Just no. It's, as I said, it's a surprising one. I'm not saying it should be the first pick on your team. I probably picked 3 or 4 mons before I picked Diggersby. And it was really just kind of like, how do I close this loop? How do I... And again, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm thinking Psychic's going to be a threat. As soon as I see Cresselia on a list, I'm like, again, these are mons that have not been overly available for previous metas, which is why I think people will naturally be drawn to them. And to Galv, Cresselia.
Cresselia, they did put those out in the research task things where they had it was around 1200 CP when you got your Grass Knot ones originally. So it's very limited. Yeah, and then I know a lot of people were it was very sought after to try to get better PvP spreads for that Cresselia. So maybe a lot of people may have traded theirs away. So I could see that, or maybe people powered it up because they wanted to have the Grass Knot for Ultra League because they felt like it was better suited for that to have Grass Knot for Swamperts and then Moonblast for Giratina. So
yeah,
it wasn't very easy to trade for too. So I see where you're going with that. I don't think of the 10 pointers, I think Cresselia might be in the middle of the pack of being picked.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd agree with that.
Licky's the one that people are going to go for, in my opinion, out of the 10 pointers.
Oh, do you reckon?
Which one?
I would have put Licky too.
You'd put Licky, what, after Frostlass?
Frostlass, I think is the one.
Yeah, Frostlass. It's the one that beats Diggersby.
Yeah, it is the one that beats Diggersby. But
I was looking at Altaria.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's if you remember, this is basically a retro cup with point values and no Chansey. So no fairy, no steel. So the Dragon Breath from Altaria just runs rampant. There's nothing that resists it. Yes, it's double weak to ice, and weak to fairy. But where are you going to find fairy damage?
Can't you get taken down by what is it, a Chinchu or whatever it is?
And can't you pick up Dragonite, which is the same typing, it's faster to its charge moves, and 6 points cheaper.
You could.
Dragonite. I'm
You
Matt
could.
Brewer and I love the Dragonite.
Like,
Oh, look at me.
I mean, I sent you that picture of my new fresh and made rank 1 Dragonite. It's not Shadow, but I'm looking at Altaria with a little bit more bulk to it. Like it can take, like, if you compare the ability for like Altaria versus Dragonite to take a Rock Slide from a DD, like Dragonite takes a significant more damage. Like,
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
So the bulk of it, and then I've seen a lot of people talk about the idea of literally spending all your points on an Altaria Metacham core and then just a bunch of 1-pointers. So I guess that's where we all come in with these 1-pointers. Is
Mhm.
Altaria Metacham? It's like, all right, how do you beat that? Well, I honestly do like Diggersby. So that, and then like your reasoning behind the lack of Earthquake makes so much more sense now too, because having Fire Punch against like an Altaria is garbage.
Yeah.
Against like a Noctowl or well, Tropius is different. Driftblim is all flying types. Pelipper. So Hyper Beam is something like maybe they're not going to expect. They might just think you're farming up the multiple punches. So that's Hyper Beam. I think we're trying to loop back to Diggersby.
Yeah.
But
Good job,
I
mate.
think-
Good job.
Good job.
yeah, I saw my phone lighting up saying loop back, loop back. Yeah, Diggersby, it could pose a lot of problems for. I mean, according to the rankings, it does lose to Altaria, but I think it's going to be able to put in some kind of work against just about anything in the meta that's not maybe just Driftblim.
Yeah. I think as well what we've not touched on, I mean, Dan mentioned it being the normal type taking on the Mew and the Shadow Claws and that sort of thing. But I think we might end up seeing a lot of electric types as safe switches as this goes on. Like we saw it a bit in Commander Cup. I mean, my MVP all month, without doubt, was Alolan Raichu, like far and away, because there wasn't many electric resists about. And when you look down the list of the top picks, there's not many electric resists there. And so having the ground type in there in Diggersby, you've got a bit of a dual threat in terms of those big resistances. I mean, it could be off-putting. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's the fact that it does resist electric, as Nick was saying as well. Dragons are going to do a good job there. But you know, as sort of alternative electric.
Most of your dragons, though, are going to be flying dragons. So if you're throwing electric bolts at them, they're not going to enjoy it.
It's true.
And it's going to, you know, even if you are beating them, you're going to take them down to farming distance for whatever comes in next.
Yeah. Not Dragalge, though.
Theoretically.
Dragalge resists electric. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say there's only 3
Let it go,
dragons I can
Lucky.
think of that won't
Let it
resist or that will resist.
But
Have you seen, even like a Stunfisk, have you seen a Diggersby against a Stunfisk? Because Diggersby just laughs at it,
oh yeah,
really plows through it. It doesn't care.
even without earthquake.
Doesn't bother with it.
Cool. Well, anyone else got any final thoughts on Diggersby before we move on? No. Well,
No one want to do an impression of Diggersby while we're talking, you know? I'm not quite sure how Diggersby... Hey!
there we go. There we go.
What did I just look up into? I was gonna see if I would say just to the general public that is watching, I would definitely do your research based on if you're going to build a Diggersby, if you're going to build it an XL or a regular. Definitely review the matchups for that too, because it may actually have a lot more bulk with the XL that actually helps win some of the things you might think it's going to beat, but it might not, or it doesn't have as strong of neutral matchups if it's not XL. So definitely look into that, because it gets a lot more of its bulk that way. I know it's a lot more of an investment, but you know, if you find a good one, you're basically one and done.
And just bear in mind what you pair it with, because people are going to punch holes out of you. So have some sort of suitable counter in there for fighting types as well, because that is going to be... Well, if I came up against a Diggersby, I'd be wanting something that was going to punch holes in it. So,
Oh, like you mean like a Hypno?
well, Hypno, if it's Focus Blast Hypno.
Ooh. No, I meant to pair it with Diggersby to protect it from the
Yes.
punchies.
Yeah. If you were to pair it with a Hypno, other psychic types are available.
Yes.
11 points.
Yeah.
Told you there'd be a madman.
There we go. I want to talk about ice types because we've spoken a lot about dragons already. and ice are the sort of natural counters to the dragons here. With Frostlass is 10 points. It's expensive. I think it's doable, but it's expensive. Lapras is 6. Dugong 6. I think that's quite expensive. I certainly prefer Lapras to Dugong, but I still think that's quite expensive. Abomasnow's 4. I'm happier with that. But what I think is potentially the best option is Glalie as a one-pointer. Pokédex number 362 for Dan's benefit. There we go. It's the king ice type. You're just pure ice. You've got Shadow Ball as your coverage move, so you beat Frostlass in the 0s and the 1s. Abomasnow's neutral twice, so you're beating Abomasnow, generally speaking. Lapras you're struggling with, but the 0s isn't that bad because you're going to get Shadow Balls off. You've got the coverage move in Shadow Ball to take on Snowy Castform. Articuno is worth considering, but because it's not resisting ice, Glalie going to be beating that. And I think, given ice is, I mean, we all know ice is a bit of a poor defensive type in, weak to the punt, weak to counter, weak to rock, which inevitably pops up somewhere. Weak to fire, which I don't think it's going to be looking super prevalent to begin with, but Talonflame's good. Talonflame's really good. Ninetales has got Shadow Ball. Ice types struggle with water as well, and we all know people love a Politoed. So I think Ice is one of those types where, given that its real focus is beating the dragons, it might be important to pick the best Ice within that category. And for me, as a one-pointer, Glalie fits the bill. Frostlass, it was interesting. So when I was looking at ice types, I remember back in Vortex Cup, Frostlass was struggling versus things like Dragonair because the Powder Snow damage output just isn't quite there. So if the dragons choose to invest shields, they can. Certainly the ones that aren't double weak to it. So things like your Dragonair and your Goodras, your Dragalges, will be able to take Frostlass on to some extent. Ice Shard goes in much harder versus those dragons, so it makes it much more farmable. Unlike Lapras, you don't have to throw resisted Surfs because you've got Avalanche, which is a beast of a move anyway. Like in terms of a neutral hitting move, neutral stab move, Avalanche is up there. Shadow Ball, there isn't a mon in the game that wouldn't be improved by having Shadow Ball added to its moveset. It's just a really good coverage, and it's quite bulky. Like stat product's around 2,000, so I think you're looking in the sort of area of a Cradily. That's sort of maybe a bit less off the top of my head. Certainly, yeah, sort of somewhere in that sort of ballpark.
And it has a decent attack stat to it too. So those ice shards actually aren't just like something to laugh at. Like Lapras it's very tanky, but Glalie is a bit of like. All three are decently statted.
Yes, yeah, it's one of them. So like how Mew and Jirachi.
The Hypno of the Ice world.
No.
Not as bulky.
No, I don't think there is. I think I wouldn't ever say there's an ice equivalent of Hypno. It sort of reminds me a little bit of Mew in terms of how it plays and its bulk, where. It's got a similar stat distribution in product to Mew, but in terms of if you can get that 1 or 2 move advantage, you're gonna get something. Something good's gonna happen. From a standing start, you're not great in the 0s. You're probably not amazing in the 2s, but for the 1s, you're looking good. Which if you're gonna use it in any matchups outside of what you wanting it to be used in. Like you're not always going to get it lined up against the dragon. Try as you might. It's got ways out of that. Like it's not such an incredibly niche thing that it's going to fall apart to anything other than a dragon. It's got a nice balance of, as we were saying, it's got a nice balance of bulk and the ice shards hitting hard and the good charge moves. Yeah, and I just think it might be worth a shot.
I know that you've wanted to talk about this for a while. I know that you love this Pokemon and you hold it dear to your heart. You hold it nearly as high as Frostlass to your heart. That's how high a standard that I think you do like it.
I think I might like it a bit more. Well, in its own right.
Don't let Trudy hear you.
Don't think
No.
don't mistake that. Don't mistake that for me thinking it's better than Frostlass. Don't mistake that with that. But I think I like it a bit more.
Do you not think that in this meta, which we're all talking about being very wide open, and you know, a lot of fun and everything, do you not think a pure ice type is sort of dangerous? Because if you get caught in the wrong match, you are screwed. Do you know what I mean? It is very. I know I've just been talking about but it is a pure ice type. It doesn't have that same sort of like Frostlass has that kind of ghost kind of, resistance and things. That kind of.
I think you mean. I mean the pure typings are a bit more one-dimensional, but I think what's sometimes forgotten is that dual typings, yes, they have extra resistances, but they also have extra weaknesses. And Steel's gone here. So the big thing that's walling it is sort of gone. Well, one of the big things, you still got water and fire, but again, I'm not sure how massively hard they're going to be. And yeah, if you get caught with this as a counter user, it's not going to end well. But it's not like you're not hitting back. And I do think as a generalist, it is quite good. As I say, like if you caught up against an electric type, for an example, or a liquor, or I'm just having a look at my notes and trying to think. Actually, looking at my notes,
I was going to say, I've seen your notes. They're just mad squiggles. You know what I mean? I'm surprised they're not on the wall or something behind you. Do you know what I mean?
Looks like Charlie from It's Always Sunny.
All work and no play makes Matthew a dull boy.
That was the biggest head I've seen in a while on my screen. I shouldn't have a full screen zoom on a wide screen monitor.
I mean, my notes are sort of suggesting to me that it's either going to be in a good matchup, a bad matchup, I was going to say it's either going to be a good matchup, a bad matchup, or a neutral matchup. That's like,
wow, you don't say.
Really? That's new information there, Matt.
The neutral matchups, the only neutral matchups around seem to be that I'm particularly interested in. Seem to be liquors and electric types and psychic types, which I think are all going to be quite common. And at that point, so let's say you're running into a team with those three things, in which I don't think is inconceivable. At that point, you're sort of looking all right, because if your opponent's if you've got one good matchup there, and let's say it's a dragon, and it's important that you have something to cover that. All of a sudden, if you've only got two things for it to worry about, like most things you pick are going to have two counters on your opponent's team. I mean, I don't know. I think the variety, as we say in the scope, is going to make it difficult. I think it's the sort of thing where some teams it's going to be an absolute no-go, and I think that's true of all ice types. But the ones with dragons, and I think we'll see a lot of double dragon. We saw it in Vortex. I think we'll see a lot of double dragon.
I can see people being greedy, and I can see people, and I'm not saying us on this call, but I can see people being greedy and going, I'm having a 10-point pick, I'm having a 6-point pick. Shit, I need to build up the rest with me. 1-pointers, and then them looking on that 1-point list, and there are some very reliable mons on that 1-point list. One of them that comes to mind is K9.
Yes. Yeah.
And K9, again, depending on what movesets you want on it, do you know what I mean? You can go with the Solar Beam, you can go with the Psyshock. You're filling little bits of rolls, plus then Weather Balls are super quick to get out. And if you see a K9 on that team that you're facing, you're never bringing your Glalie. Are you really? You'd be a madman, because it's going to eat you in like a weather ball.
But I mean, if that was the only, I mean,
Probably more than a weather ball, but you know,
yeah.
are you going to even get to 2?
Well, yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, I guess my question. Well, I mean, it probably isn't going to be the only counter on the team because there's probably a counter user there. So at that point,
I just think people are going to use these filler slots because they're going to go greedy and they're going to go, right, I want a Frostlass or I want a Cresselia or I want a Lickitung. And then they go, yeah, and I really want Galv. So I've only got 1 pointers left.
Yeah.
And they're going to try and go with ones that they know and that are reliable. And I don't think there'll be much fire. I think the only fire you probably will see is K9. As in a pure fire, you know, I think it's, we all know it's a sort of wasted type, really. It's just not really. I know you can say Talon sort of brought it back into, I find Talon horrible to use. Maybe Castform as well. Maybe you'll see Sunny Castform.
I was looking at Sunny Castform or even Charizard.
Quad Ball could be the strat for this tournament, though. I've said it from the beginning. Quad Ball. Darth Quill's going to rock it up in Nottingham. He's going to go Quad Ball and ruin everyone's life.
Yeah. But I mean, this is the thing, I suppose, where off the top of my head, those big 10-point picks and those 6-point picks, well, actually, Glalie versus the 10-point picks is pretty good. You know, it's gonna hammer Altaria. It's gonna be neutral versus Hypno. It's gonna be beating Frostlass, generally speaking. It's gonna be pretty neutral versus Crest. It's gonna be pretty neutral versus Lickitung. And actually, because of Shadow Ball and the lack of a fire charge move on Marowak, I'm pretty sure it can beat Marowak in zeros. So, you know, and there's plenty of things in the 6-point slot that it's putting working against. Like Galv is going to be neutral, Pelipper is going to be neutral. Jellicent, I think we'll see Jellicent. So you've got Shadow Ball for that. So at that point, you've got an ice type that isn't walled by your water type. What else in the 6-point slot? I mean, I know I'm picking and choosing from the 6-point slot. I'm not mentioning how Medicham is in there, but you know, there's plenty. It has plenty of neutral matchups in those big ticket point options.
Do you not agree, Phil?
You cannot beat a lone Marowak in the zeros.
Can you not? Not even with like.
You cripple it, but.
Well, I mean that's pretty decent.
I think you'd need at least 2 ice shards at advantage to advantage because you'd have to land a Shadow Ball and an Avalanche.
Right.
Maybe, 3 ice shards you'd need.
Yeah, that's pretty optimistic.
11 HP, so 3 ice shards.
Pretty reliable versus Kingdra, despite not being. I'm flogging it head horse here, but yeah.
I don't think you are. I genuinely think it's got merit. I genuinely do think it's got merit. I'm just trying to show the other sides of it and stuff like that.
No, for sure.
Predicting how other people might play.
Yeah.
It actually worked wonders for me back in Timeless Cup.
Agreed. Great.
I used it a lot back in Timeless Cup, and it worked out really, really well. So I'm glad I still have one saved aside. I hadn't put much thought into it, but I like the ice coverage. Yeah, I don't see any play for Gyro Ball. I mean, there's no fairies. What are you going to try to hit the rocks? Like, it's kind of a joke of a move. So that's I think might be the only thing that might hold it back is how predictable it is. But it's like it fits in for what you need it to do.
Yeah.
If you can protect it, you know, like these fire types are obviously not going to be enjoyable, but I don't know. Talonflame at 6. I think so. Right now, my thinking, the biggest threat to a Glalie play is a Defense Deoxys, because it can tank a Shadow Ball and still hit you with those rock slides that just hurt. Even though DD has such a low attack stat, those rock slides just hurt. So that might be the biggest thing to protect it against, versus the very unlikely of fire types. And I'm assuming that, like, if you have dragons on your team, or if you have at least a water type on your team, so if they have a fire, they're going to be afraid to bring the fire just for that Glalie. Like, it's all pick and choose what you see on their squads of 6. So I think that the counter users, mainly Defense Deoxys, is going to be the one that's the problematic one.
Yeah, for sure. Right, Phil, you're up next. What have you got for us?
Pokédex 130. Gyarados. Gyrodos.
Gary!
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 So I like how Nick was talking about how Alteria's solid and dragons are going to be big this month. Instead of going for a 4-point side grade, go for a 1-point side grade. It has play as a flyer versus the the fighters, as well as of course countering the dragons, the typical Dragon Breath users. And yeah, well, at what is it? The best switch. That's classified as a 1-pointer.
Really?
Is it?
Yep. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So the freshly updated rankings, it has it at the top of the switch, near the top of the switch.
Are these the same rankings that have Snowy
highest
Castform
ranked.
as number 9?
Say again, mate.
Are these the same rankings that have Snowy Castform as number 9 overall?
You're going to love what's number 2 on the switches, Matt. Sorry.
Oh, go on.
What do you think?
See, I'm on about the switches, yeah.
Alright.
It's the highest
Shadows
ranked
Zapdos.
one.
I forgot that was even a thing. How does that happen?
Just go triple legendary bird.
Right, I think Moltres has play, but that's for another day. But go on, sorry to interrupt.
Okay, now I'm seeing what you're saying. It's the number 1 ranked switch that costs 1 point.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
There's a lot of 6-pointers and a lot of 10-pointers up there. Of course, Muse up there is the best 4-pointer. But yeah, as the best 1-pointer, Gyarados is up there.
So, you're not a little bit put off by the fact that the non-stabs on the Dragon Breath is gonna, like, it feels like Dragon Breath's one of those moves to me where it feels a little bit like Charmin Razor Leaf, not quite overpowering, but when you take stab off it, it's not quite as potent.
It's more of a utility mon, isn't it? Whether it's a diversion, a distraction, or whether you need it to finish a job off with a shield advantage, it can take on pretty much anything that isn't an electric mon.
I think the upside is like Gyarados is also fairly attack stat weighted, so it almost like balances out the fact that Dragon Breath isn't stab, but then it also is potentially dealing super effective Dragon Breath damage to dragons that are dealing neutral back. Yes, it doesn't have as much of the bulk, but like that's where you're kind of riding the Gyarados train for. Downside, yeah, it's got crunch, so at least it's some kind of a neutral attack to hit the dragons because Aqua Tail is going to be resisted even with stab, but like it's just a very safe option for just 1 point. Yes, you want to be wary of the electrics, but it still has a lot of chunky damage. Like depending on what electric you're up against, if it's a Volt Switcher like a Spider or like Ampharos or Raichu, things like that, Volt Switch is going to chew it up. So you're just going to want to do as much damage as possible. But if it's something like Thundershock or Spark, you're still going to be able to shield through a lot of the damage because those are just energy generators. They're not actually hitting you that hard, even with it being double super effective. And then those Aqua Tails keep coming. Those Dragon Breaths just hurt. You just see the health bar never stop going down.
We're all assuming that Phil was talking about it with Dragon Breath. We're not talking about it with Waterfall. Is that not the chosen moveset? Is that not what?
Oh
no!
I was thinking.
All right, I'll get my coat.
Oh, Dragon Breath, not Bite.
Dragon meta. You want it to beat the dragons.
What? Oh, so we're not supposed to Elite TM it to Dragon Tail?
The superior dragon move with that little extra energy gain. The superior dragon.
So yeah, I mean, yes, Waterfall has some play, but again, with the fires being there and then the fact that the water resisted, so I think Dragon Breath is the play, but not to discredit Dan's Waterfall Gyarados.
I think Gyarados is good here. I think it doesn't have the same sort of weaknesses that the other dragons do in sort of a way, so that's always a bonus.
Like
really.
Ice. Ice is neutral.
Ice is neutral. And
it picks up the electric weakness though in a great way.
It does. But I think again, your charge moves have got that diversity to them because your Dragon Breath's doing the damage to the dragons. You don't really need a Dragon Claw or a Dragon Pulse or anything like that behind it. Having a Crunch, which is much more widely usable, will hurt a lot more stuff super effectively, is really desirable. And again, I know it's Aquatail, but it's actually a good move. It's all right, and it gives you that extra coverage. So you've got 3 types of coverage rather than just. I know you've got Altaria, it's got the flying move and stuff like that, but it's not just a dragon. It's not Dragonite where you're just a dragon.
Yeah.
True, and that Aquatail is only 35 energy, so you're going to get to, you devote a shield, you're probably going to get to at least 2 of them.
Yeah, and it's stab as well. So even though it's not the most amazing move in the world, it makes up for that. And as Nick was saying earlier, with the high attack, with the high attack stat on Gyarados, it's going to feel like it hits harder anyway. So yeah.
Depending on what you're up against, like they might have to respect a crunch and shield an Aquatail, then you're going to get to something else. Like it's a very strong pick.
Mew's going to be everywhere. So if you're getting ahead of a Mew, you potentially get to the energy of a crunch. Yeah.
No, I can see the logic in it. I can see the logic there. I mean, it doesn't beat a whole variety of the meta. What is it? Beats about 70% of the meta.
You've got to be smart. You've got to be smart with getting ahead on energy. So potentially switching in on something where they don't want to stay in, so they're forced to bring in the Gyarados counter maybe. Obviously, in that position, you wouldn't be bringing it in against a team with an electric. Or maybe you protect it in a manner such that it sweeps. I don't know. So far, it's been very, very promising in practice.
Phil's obviously got a strat that he doesn't
know,
want to
yeah.
blur out on YouTube.
I mean, it sounds like an ABB line.
Vincent Stan are watching this, and you, Dan, you're in mine as well, mate.
Stan doesn't watch Matt's channel. Come on.
No chance.
And Vince, come on. Does Vince even play Pokemon anymore? You know what I mean?
Right.
He swept Nottingham the other day, didn't he?
Yeah, it's like his 4th tournament.
I had to look down the newly formed chatting shit spreadsheet to make sure no one had picked this before I asked about it. It sounds like what you're describing is quite similar to Charizard as well.
Of sorts. Go on. Play devil's advocate.
What I'm saying is, I mean, Gyarados is a bit bulkier, isn't it? I think. But Charizard's got much better charge moves, hasn't it? I mean, you're not losing stab. You're losing stab on the quick one, but you're getting Dragon Claw. But you've got Blast Burn.
No, but what are you potentially hitting with this Blast Burn? And
literally anything.
I know it's not. Yeah, I think.
I don't know. I think there's going to be ghosts and psychics everywhere. I think Crunch is quite useful.
Fair. Yeah.
I agree with Phil. And again, talking about stable mons that people like to use, people are going to bring Swampert.
Good shout. And great shout.
Gyarados is just Politoed, exactly. Gyarados is just going to stand there.
I think there's a reason why the predominant typing in a lot of, like, the whole Pokemon universe, the most common typing is water. Yeah.
Like quite some way as well.
What's that?
Like quite some way as well.
Yeah. So nothing against Charizard. It's just the fact that there are so many readily available sources of water damage. It is also weak to rock and electric. So I think there's a place for Charizard, but I think there's better roles that a Gyarados could fill if they're both doing Dragon Breath attacks.
I suppose the traditional appeal of a fire type, or in my mind, is to not only to beat steals, but to also resist charm. And this meta sort of deals that double blow to fire types, doesn't it, I suppose?
Yeah.
It's not needed.
What is fire actually going to help you accomplish is to beat grass. Unless I'm missing something. Oh, and ice.
Yeah.
Ice, bugs.
Okay. You're looking at it, you've got the spider. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, for fire types, what you're going to do, you've got Glalie, you've got your ice types and things like that.
Frostlass.
And
Yep.
your Bomber Snow. I mean, again, a Bomber Snow's got to be big. It's going to
Yeah.
be huge.
I think the list of how many available fire targets is kind of there. It's just the usage of actual pure fire types or like fire subtyping just doesn't seem all that strong in this. Like your Diggersby with Fire Punch is very versatile and helpful, but like an actual fire type. Whereas, I mean, outside of Talonflame maybe, but I don't know if there's a big spot for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Yeah. So, yeah, back to Gyarados though. And yeah,
We
anything
did it again, didn't we?
Yeah.
I like Gyarados here. I think it can fill multiple roles, and it's a nice switch in the sense of it's going to do damage. Do you know what I mean? If you're caught in, and it's one of them, it's going to lose, so you don't mind losing it. You're not. I don't think you need to invest shields in Gyarados for it to do its job. As I said before about the percentage difference between Gyarados in a 1 shield and a 2 shield scenario to a 0 shield is, you're talking no difference. You're talking, 7% difference between.
Like I said, a utility mod, you can get it to fit whatever you need it to do. Whether you need it to be sacrificed, whether you need it to be a distraction, whether you need it to farm down something and take an energy lead at somewhere, it has a lot of play.
Is anyone else so comfortable with how confident Phil is about this?
What, this month?
Yeah.
No.
I'm glad I'm not
at
at his regional.
Do you know what? The more he's doing it, though, the more confident I am actually getting, because he seems too confident, which means he's got a set plan in his head, which means we've got, 2 weeks till our regional? This plan will slip out. He will play this plan in a practice tournament. I'll see his face, I'll look at him, and that'll be it. It'll be like, and I'll just go into it and go, you're gone, mate.
Exactly what you
I know what you're doing. Yeah. And if worse comes to worse, we'll just get Jay chatting and Jay will tell us, and that'll be all right. So it'll be all good.
Well, should we move on to onto Nick then to close us out?
Nick?
Stunning resemblance, huh? It is from Detective Pikachu.
Can you do the dance though?
No, but it talks. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Probably not.
Yeah.
No, and then it just looked really
That was
weird, just
pretty awesome, actually.
Beating
It
up a
was pretty
Ludicolo
awesome.
plush. Yeah, I won that at one of our locals, but it's very fitting. So, Ludicolo, Pokedex number 272 that I've had memorized for years, because this dancing pineapple has a wonderful place in my heart. When I started seeing this meta, I was looking for a lot of things that could help me with versatile extra coverage moves. So I immediately looked at something that can have multiple typings of charge attacks that are all viable. And unfortunately, the charge attacks are a little expensive. So I would highly recommend running the standard look of Bubble with Ice Beam and then the newly added Leaf Storm, because that move is incredible. I've tried it out a little bit and it's just unreal. I know it has access to Energy Ball as well. If you run the stats on it, unless it's double resisted, a second Leaf Storm will do just the same amount of damage as a regular Energy Ball. So even if you get the first Leaf Storm shielded, it's still going to do a ton of damage. It actually will wipe out.
Have you seen a Leaf Storm versus a Frostlass?
No, I haven't.
See,
I just know that it hurts.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's beautiful.
I have.
It just goes like.
My favorite stat that I like looking at is I didn't realize this, but apparently it's a very, very close matchup with Whiscash. You actually beat Whiscash with only 21 health left in the 1 shields, but that's because they landed a Blizzard, and Blizzard still does a lot of damage because it's still a big neutral nuke because of the difference between the water grass typing. So resisted water, super effective grass. But the fun stat is that it deals 158% or 159% of Whiscash's health and has a 5.14 damage per energy for a Leaf Storm. So yeah, it's going to help you clear out your mud boys. And then my added bonus is that with Skarmory Band from the steel typing, it will hit every single flying type for at least super effective damage. So it's got that coverage that, you know, most grasses would be afraid of. So I wanted the idea of a grass on the team because of I'm assuming there's going to be at least 1 to 2 water types per team because of how common the typing is. So a grass type that isn't super weak to flying, because I feel like there's going to be flying somewhere on everybody. I know there's Altaria, there's Noctowl, there's Driftblim and Tropius, all of which don't want to take Ice Beams. Dragonite. I think the only one that might not care as much is a Talonflame, because it's just a neutral hit.
Yeah.
But then the bubbles to come in to help. So I took a look at some of the overall statistics. This was before the Venture Cup stats came out. I was still using just the retro stats, so Chansey's still in there, sorry. But it has a relatively good stat spread of, like, I think these numbers might be too big, but it said 312 wins and 253 losses with 2 draws in just the straight one shields. But if you get a 1 bubble lead, you add almost 60 more wins.
Ooh.
And yeah, so it goes to 377, 189, and then 1 draw. And if you really feel like committing to this Dancing Pineapple, in the 2 shield, it wins 507 matches and loses 59. So I know these numbers are probably a bit more skewed based on simulations. That's to be expected because Leaf Storm is so powerful. So a lot of these are going to be bait dependent, or at the very worst case scenario, you burn both of their shields and then you just say goodbye to Ludicolo, and maybe like Gyarados comes in and sweeps, or something just to comes in and sweep. That could be your game plan, is to use Ludicolo as an answer for certain things, or just as a way to just strip your opponent of shields, because it can, you know, it generates energy fairly quickly. You know, those Leaf Storms are only 5 bubbles, and we all know how quickly you get to Ice Beams, or even, I guess, Play Rough is 1 more bubble on an Azumarill. Now, Ludicolo is not as tanky, but it just doesn't have the similar weaknesses. So I really like him in here. And, you know, a lot of the top picks that it can beat, I'm looking at, so it beats your Jellicent, Seaking, Rainy Castform, regular Stunfisk. That's probably expected because those things are all very weak to grass and Leaf Storms are going to chunk it. But then it still beats Dusclops, beats Lapras, beats Altaria, Celio, Hypno, both Shadow and regular Hypno. And it actually still has a bait-dependent win on Vigoroth too, which a lot of people have been looking into Vigoroth as a cheaper fighter option instead of what I'm expecting to be a very Medicham heavy meta. But I don't know. I look into it and think it's a very fun mon to use. It generates energy quickly, and then it has those 2 different varying attacks that can provide a lot of coverage in case you happen to get switched into something that's a little less. It just doesn't feel like there's a lot of bad matchups that can switch into it if you have that 1 or 2 bubble lead. So
yeah,
I enjoy Leaf Storm.
Yeah,
I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. Nobody thinks you're going to hit it first.
yeah.
And you know, if you've got the ability to switch and you have a diverse enough team that you feel comfortable, again, having something like Gyarados. Although I don't know, having 2 waters, it's not something I was planning on. But being able to switch out of it, I found using Roserade in that kind of way this month with the Commander Cup very good, and very, again, people just don't expect you to hit with that Leaf Storm. And as Matt found out with his Frostlass, you know, you expect somebody to come in. Certainly with Roserade, you expect him to do, you know, a couple of the fireballs first, you know, maybe try and bait you a little bit, maybe go straight in with that Leaf Storm and then get the hell out of there quickly. And it's brutal. It's
Do you know what someone did to me?
Good.
Someone went 3 Leaf Storms on me, and the 3rd one, so after taking 4 attack buffs, debuffs, still did about 40% to my Alolan Muck the other day, resisted at -4. Like, it's a disgusting move. Now, granted, that's off a Roserade, and that's just a really, really aggressive man. Ludicolo isn't quite there, but the point is, you're never going to be tickling with Leaf Storm. No.
Never.
Yeah.
So I think that's, and again, it's a very nice typing. The water grass is a very, very nice typing. Having that grass element,
like, you need to be doing flying damage too, don't you? Really?
Yeah, or it's also weak to bug, flying,
yeah.
and poison. It is still technically
Yeah,
weak to
poison, yeah.
poison, but the grass typing helped negate a lot of the weaknesses that the water was originally weak to.
Yeah.
You know,
do you
it's
think we'll
no
see
lo-
much? Do you think we'll see much bug and poison, Nick?
I don't. I mean, outside of maybe
The spider, you'll see the bug spider.
Well,
yeah,
that's
the
gonna be
lunges, the lunges.
Mm.
There's some might be if they're really not looking to invest a lot of points into the Metacham, they might opt for Toxicroak for a fighter. So it's got the sludge bomb there. I think I don't know if there's going to be a lot of play for Beedrill as a bug or poison option, just because of the poison subtyping on it will hurt against. I mean, like bug's very strong against grass and psychic, but then the poison typing to it just kind of hurts. I just don't think you're going to want that type of coverage of a bug or a poison to cover the grasses. You'd probably rather have a flying type because it's also good against fighting. Or
Do you think you'll see the ghost poisons?
I think.
yeah,
I think they'll be
Yeah.
the only poisons we'll see, or more or less. I think they'll be the.
I think
Not
they'll be the
even a
most
Venusaur?
prominent. See, I think Tropius might be a bit stronger in that.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah,
As an
Abomasnow
altar
as
grass.
well. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know.
You look
Venusaur.
stressed there.
know.
You look stressed. Like, I
just-
don't want to talk bad about Venusaur. No, I can't.
We
say
did look
anything
at
bad about
Venusaur a lot.
Venusaur.
Yeah.
And again, Venusaur is also a 1-pointer. I don't know how. I thought it might have been at least a 4, but I think with the Azumarill out, Venusaur and the grasses aren't as prominent. But because Tropius is dual purpose, it's the flying and grass, and then Abomasnow being very spammy with Powder Snow, Weather Ball, and Energy Ball. Those warranted the higher point picks. But yeah, I mean, Venusaur's solid too. I just happen to like the extra coverage. Like Sludge Bomb is obviously useful for when you get stuck in that grass matchup, but at least it's more of just a stab nuke. But Ice Beam provides a lot of extra coverage towards those dragons. Like you have to, like Altaria can take a Sludge Bomb and just kind of laugh at it, and keep going, and just chunk you down with Dragon Breath and a Sky Attack. You have to shield that Ice Beam. It'll take. I don't think it deals 100%, but it deals.
I mean, not far
I'm
off,
looking
will
at
it?
It deals 85.
Yeah. All right. And after your bubbles, you're gonna be
Yeah.
there.
It's a
It's-
very
it's-
respectable amount.
Yeah, that is something you can't laugh at. So that's where I think Ludicolo has a lot more room to shine for the, I guess what you would consider a bad matchup for a grass type, is that it has fast energy generation. I wish it had Vine Whip, but you can't have everything. But Bubble does come in handy because it's still stab because of the water typing, so you have a little bit of extra coverage against the fire types, even though depending on the fire type, it's just not going to really care so much about your charge attacks.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about grass typing here is that when you look at the restricted picks in terms of what's been numbered or given higher points values, I think, am I right in thinking that the only grass types that are restricted are Tropius and Abomasnow?
Yes.
Neither
Well,
of
Credilli?
those-
Really?
If
Yes,
No,
Credilli. Credilli
Is
is a
it?
4-pointer.
Oh,
I mean, so
Really?
if we look at what can potentially, like Cresselia could have Grass Knot, Lickitung could have Power Whip.
Mhm.
So those are not really grass types. But then,
Gudra.
yeah, we've got.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Gudra is a 4-pointer. Mew can technically know Grass Knot, but if you're looking at Tropius, Abomasnow, Surfetched can also know Leaf Blade.
sharp, yeah.
But Credilli is also a 4-point pick, and
I think what that suggests kind of
Spooter.
suggests to me. And
the Spider can know
Ah,
Energy
yes.
Ball.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true. That is true. But yeah, I
You
mean,
wouldn't run it, but yeah, not here.
no, I think you're
Not
right.
here.
Because I think the grass typing is better than the grass damage here. But I think when you look at the grass types that are restricted, you've got Abomasnow, which it's ice damage more often than not, isn't it? Tropius, I mean, yeah, you've got Leaf Blade, but it's nice because of the flying as well.
It's just a flying tank with Air Slash, so it's
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Ludicolo might be a sneaky way to get the resistances that grass brings into your team. Not something I'd given much thought to, but I think I'll definitely be looking at again now. Actually,
it's a lot harder to ignore now because of Leaf Storm.
Yes.
Like it's finally it's another move that goes out there that I won't say it rivals Frenzy Plant because nothing really does, but it's something that makes you really wonder, maybe I can get away with a different grass type that doesn't have Frenzy Plant, or I just don't like the potential typing, or I don't want to dedicate to go like the Meganium route that gets completely screwed over by flying types. You have nothing to hit it with, where Ludicolo and Venusaur have something to do. Or I guess you have Cordeli too.
You'd take a Frenzy Plant in the face, though. You would not take a Leaf Storm. I know you don't have that kind of debuff afterwards, but it's such a killer move. I'm not.
And it's what, one fast move more to get to a Leaf Storm versus, like, I think it's 55 versus 45. Is Frenzy's 45?
Yeah, Frenzy's 45. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's in theory one fast attack more.
And I think two Leaf Storms is still comparable to 2 Frenzies anyway. So even after the debuff, you're not massively missing out. Yeah, I quite like the sound of this.
I mean, there are the other nuke options. If your team has enough adequate ice coverage, I guess you could potentially get away with, I think it also can know Blizzard or Hydro Pump. Bubble getting there very, very quickly, so you can kind of make yourself like a Pineapple Azumarill. You got the 55 damage Leaf Storm, or 55 energy Leaf Storm versus the 80 Hydro Pump. I wouldn't recommend it. I've ran a lot of my sims with the Ice Blade or Ice Beam and Leaf Storm, and it looks great on paper. I've used it a bunch in practice, and that was with I want to use my shiny because it's really fun, and I got it at GoFest, but it's got
nice looking shiny as well.
It is a great looking shiny. I just have one that's got a bit better of a stat product that'll get me like 6 more hit points, and as much as it is big because if I want those ice beams to go off against the dragons, I don't want to fall short because I took one or 2 extra dragon breaths and fainted. So I'm looking into possibly making a new Ludicolo that isn't shiny.
Yeah, but maybe you're in the.
They're sometimes doing stuff with style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but not in regionals though. Not in regionals. Surely.
What do you think, Phil?
Go big or go home. He needs the better stat.
Better stat. But I thought shinies do more damage.
I have a pick that I'm going to talk about at some point later on in chat and shit, where I actually took it to regional season 1 as a shiny, and I didn't actually. Sorry.
That sounds cryptic.
I'm
gonna start digging through your player card.
Yeah, people can go through and do if they want, but I picked it in season 1 for regionals, and in the 15 rounds, the 15 games, I picked it once, and in that one particular game, I didn't actually get to send it out, and now since then, so I didn't actually get to use it, and I took it as a shiny, and since then, it's a really difficult shiny to get for Great League as well, so I was dead chuffed with myself. And since then,
I know exactly which one it is.
Yeah,
I know exactly which one it is now. Yeah, I love that one.
And since then,
lovely man.
I've got a better IV one, quite a good IV one, and I feel like I owe it to myself that if I'm going to end up taking it to regionals, I've got to take the shiny one, give it some play after 2 years. But other than that,
it's a beautiful shiny. Yeah.
But anyway,
British thing because that's going over my head.
I'll whisper it to you later.
All right.
Don't worry, I'll tell you later.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining, guys. Enjoyed it as always.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Matt.
Thanks for having us.
Be back.
And letting me show off my plushie.
It's been an awesome season, Matt. Thanks for having us on so many times. I've really enjoyed chatting shit. I look forward to it every month.
It's definitely been tough, and this has been like a highlight of our months every month, mate. So thank you very much.
Oh, mate.
Didn't you get gold every month, Phil? You can't say this has been a
Prismatic.
tough. Right,
Prismatic doesn't count though. I'm sure that's like the general consensus is that Prismatic doesn't count.
Hang on a minute, Prismatic was my first ever sweep, so it definitely does count. Definitely counts.
Right. Cheers, guys.
But no,
it's
been great. Thanks, Matt.
No, I thoroughly enjoy it as well. Do you know, I didn't do them in Prismatic because well, for various reasons, I was busy. I thought it'd be interesting just to see what effect it had on me by not doing it. I just missed it. I missed it so much. But yeah, I think I'm at the point now where I enjoy talking about the game more than I enjoy playing the game, which is a bit concerning. But you know.
I think me and you are just going to become full-time mentors, aren't we?
No, I wouldn't be too against that. But we'll see.
You say
I don't
that,
know.
but you love it.
Do what I did. Cut back to like one or two a month. See how you feel. That's what I did. I've done literally just gym every single month, and no, granted we don't have any local ones to do, so it's kind of like I have no choice. But I mean, there's all the ones that we've got through Belters and Northwest All Stars and things like that. So maybe just try to pick and choose.
Handforth.
My Handforth, yes. I'm sorry.
Handforth.
I knew there was
Yeah.
one I was going to forget. It's just I don't have the luxury of doing them, so it feels a little different. Trying not to doing as many. Waiting, picking which one I wait a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm glad you guys have all enjoyed it as much as me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Right, guys. Thank you very much, and yeah, catch you next season.
Yeah.
Cheers, man.
Later. Bye.
See ya.